2 in the morning is a specific kind of hour. It is not the beginning of night, when you first turn off the lights and settle in with hope for rest. It is not the early morning when the world begins to stir and light creeps around the edges of curtains. 2 in the morning is the deepest part of the night, the hour when the world has paused, when even the restless have surrendered to sleep, when you might be the only person awake for miles. The clock glows softly in the darkness, and you watch the numbers without urgency, without frustration, simply noting the time. 2 a.m. You are awake, and the house around you is silent in a way that only happens at this hour. The streets outside are empty. No cars pass. No footsteps echo on sidewalks. Even the usual night sounds, the distant hum of traffic or the bark of a dog, seem muted, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Your body is in bed, has been in bed for hours, but your mind is awake, alert, present. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Tonight, at this particular hour, you are here, awake, and there is no shame in that. 2 a.m. is not an enemy. It is simply a time, a moment, a space between sleep and sleep where the mind does what it needs to do. Time stretches differently at 2 in the morning. Minutes feel longer, thoughts feel deeper, and the boundary between memory and present blurs in ways that only happen in deep night. You lie there, eyes open or closed, and you simply exist in this hour that belongs to no one but you. There is something almost sacred about being awake when the rest of the world sleeps, about being present in this quiet, about bearing witness to the stillness. 2 a.m. is not a problem to be solved. It is simply a moment to be experienced, and you are experiencing it now, breath by breath, thought by thought. The quality of this hour is unique, distinct from any other time of day or night. It carries with it a weight, but not a heavy weight. More like the weight of significance, of meaning, of truth that can only be felt when everything else has fallen away. You notice the way the shadows fall across your room, the familiar shapes that have become companions in these wakeful hours. You notice the temperature of the air, cool against your face, the texture of your sheets, the way your pillow has molded itself to the shape of your head over months and years. The house is in its deepest sleep. You can hear it settling around you, the small sounds that houses make when no one is moving through them, when all activity has ceased and the structure itself seems to relax. There is the faint creak of wood adjusting to the temperature, the soft tick of pipes cooling, the almost imperceptible groan of walls that have stood for decades and will stand for decades more. These sounds are familiar. You know them by heart. You know which floorboard creaks in the hallway, which door sighs when the wind shifts outside, which corner of the house holds cold and which holds warmth. In the darkness, you could navigate every room without sight, your body remembering the layout, your feet knowing where to step, your hands knowing where to reach. This house has been your companion for years, perhaps for most of your life. It has held you through seasons and changes, through joy and sorrow, through the noise of family and the quiet of solitude. And now, at 2 in the morning, it holds you still, a silent witness to your wakefulness, a shelter that asks nothing of you, that simply stands around you and offers its steady presence. The house does not judge you for being awake. It does not tell you to sleep. It simply is, and you are within it, and there is a comfort in that, a safety that comes from being surrounded by walls, in a space that is entirely yours. The darkness inside is not threatening. It is gentle, familiar, full of the shapes and shadows you have seen 1,000 times. Your bedroom, your hallway, your living room, all of them are there in the darkness, unchanged, patient, waiting for morning but content in night. The house breathes with you, settles with you, keeps you company in this hour when company is what you need most. You think about all the nights this house has held you, all the hours it has stood guard while you slept or did not sleep, all the years it has been your refuge from the world. A house is more than wood and walls and windows. It is memory made solid. It is home. You remember when you first moved here, how strange it felt, how the sounds were unfamiliar, how you had to learn its rhythms and patterns. And now those same sounds are a comfort, a reminder that you are safe, that you are where you belong. The house has absorbed your life, your laughter and your tears, your celebrations and your sorrows. It has witnessed everything, and it keeps all of it, holding your history in its walls. Your body is tired, but it cannot fully rest. This is the reality of aging, the truth that no one quite prepares you for in youth. Your body is exhausted from the day, from the simple act of living, of moving, of being, and yet it cannot settle into the deep, uninterrupted sleep of younger years. There are aches that wake you, a stiffness in your hip, a twinge in your shoulder, a dull throb in your lower back. You shift positions, carefully, slowly, trying not to disturb the fragile possibility of sleep returning. You move from your right side to your left, adjust the pillow under your head, pull the blanket higher or push it lower. You search for the position that will allow your body to release, to let go, to sink into rest. Sometimes you find it, sometimes you do not. And at 2 in the morning, you have learned to accept this without frustration. Your body is doing its best. It has carried you for decades. It has worked and loved and endured and survived. It has earned the right to be uncomfortable, to protest, to demand attention in the middle of the night. You do not fight it. You do not curse it. You simply acknowledge it, adjust what you can, and make peace with what you cannot change. This body, with all its aches and limitations, is still yours. It is still here. And that, in itself, is something. You breathe slowly, deeply, feeling the rise and fall of your chest, the air moving in and out, the simple miracle of breath that continues whether you sleep or wake. Your body knows what it needs even when you do not. And so you lie here, tired but awake, and you accept this moment as it is. The discomfort is real, but it is not unbearable. The wakefulness is real, but it is not permanent. This too shall pass. Sleep will return or it will not, and either way you will be okay. Your body has seen you through worse. It will see you through this night as well. You think about all the nights your body has been uncomfortable, all the times it has protested, and how you have always made it through. This is just another night, another moment of negotiation between you and this physical form that houses your spirit. And you are patient with it now in ways you were not when you were younger, more understanding, more compassionate. You remember when you could sleep anywhere, in any position, and wake up refreshed. You remember when your body was not something you had to think about, when it simply did what you asked without complaint. Those days are gone, but these days have their own gifts, their own lessons. Your body is teaching you patience, teaching you acceptance, teaching you to be present with discomfort without needing to fix it immediately. At 2 in the morning there is a reason the mind wakes. It is not random. It is not punishment. It is simply that all the distractions of the day have fallen away, all the noise and activity and demands, and what remains is you and your thoughts with nothing between them. During the day you can stay busy. You can fill the hours with tasks and conversations and television and movement. But at 2 a.m., there is nothing left to distract you. The mind surfaces naturally like something rising from deep water, and it brings with it whatever has been waiting beneath the surface. Thoughts arrive like visitors, uninvited but not unwelcome, and they sit with you in the darkness. Some are memories, some are worries, some are simply observations, quiet musings about life and time and all that has passed. You do not need to push them away. You do not need to fear them. They are not threats. They are simply thoughts, doing what thoughts do, moving through your mind like clouds moving across a night sky. At 2 in the morning, you have learned that fighting wakefulness only makes it stronger. Resisting thoughts only gives them power. And so you do not resist. You simply observe. You allow the thoughts to come, to pass through, to settle or to fade. This is why the mind wakes at 2 a.m. Not to torment you, but to process, to release, to speak what could not be spoken in daylight. And there is a strange peace in that, in knowing that this wakefulness has a purpose, even if you do not fully understand it. Your mind is doing its work, sorting through the day, the week, the years, finding what needs attention and bringing it forward. You do not need to do anything with these thoughts. You simply need to witness them, to let them be, to trust that your mind knows what it is doing. The mind has its own wisdom, its own rhythm, its own needs. And at 2 a.m., it is asking for your attention, asking you to listen, asking you to be present with what arises. This is not insomnia in the clinical sense. This is the mind doing maintenance, clearing space, making room for what comes next. You have learned to see these wakeful hours not as time stolen from sleep but as time given for reflection, for processing, for being present with yourself in ways that the busy day does not allow. Looking back does not feel urgent at 2 in the morning. During the day, memories can bring regret or longing or the pressure to fix what cannot be fixed. But at night, in this deep quiet, looking back becomes something gentler. There is no rush. There is no need to do anything with the memories that surface. You can simply observe them like watching old films with compassion rather than judgment. Your life stretches out behind you, decades of moments, some bright and some dark, some significant and some ordinary. And at 2 a.m. they all feel equal, all part of the same story, the story of you. You do not need to make sense of it. You do not need to assign meaning or lesson or purpose. You can simply let it be what it was. The good and the bad, the mistakes and the triumphs, the love and the loss. All of it happened. All of it shaped you. And now, lying here in the darkness, you can look back without the weight of needing to fix anything, without the burden of regret demanding action. Night removes that pressure. Night allows you to simply be with your life as it was, as it is. There is a self-compassion that comes easier in darkness, a forgiveness that feels more natural when you are alone with yourself. You did your best. You made choices with the information and resources you had. You loved as well as you could. You survived what needed surviving. And that is enough. At 2 in the morning it is enough. The life you lived, imperfect and complicated and entirely human, is enough. You are enough. And in this moment, lying here in the dark, you can feel that truth settle into your bones, can feel the release of needing to be more or do more or achieve more. You have lived. That is the accomplishment. You have been here, present in this world for all these years. And that matters. It matters more than you sometimes remember. Your life has had value simply because you lived it, simply because you were here, simply because you participated in the grand experiment of being human. You do not need to have changed the world or left a lasting mark. You simply needed to be, and you were, and you are, and that is profound. The mistakes you made taught you. The pain you experienced deepened you. The joy you felt reminded you what it meant to be alive. All of it, every single moment, was part of the journey, and the journey was worthwhile simply because you took it. Childhood returns in fragments at this hour. Not complete memories, but pieces, flashes, sensations that feel more real than any photograph. You remember a house you lived in long ago, the layout of rooms, the color of walls, the way light came through a particular window. You remember voices, your mother calling you for dinner, your father's laugh, a sibling's whisper in the bed next to yours. These memories have no narrative, no beginning or end. They simply are, rising up from some deep place inside you where childhood is still preserved, still alive. You remember the feeling of being small, of the world being so much larger than you, of not understanding everything, of relying on others for safety and guidance. You remember nights from your youth, lying in bed much like you are now, but in a different house, in a different body, in a different time. You remember what scared you then, the shadows on the wall, the noises you could not identify, the fear that something bad might happen and you would be powerless to stop it. And you remember what comforted you, a night light, a stuffed animal, the sound of your parents talking in another room, the knowledge that you were not alone. At 2 in the morning, these childhood memories feel close, as if the decades between then and now have collapsed, as if you are still that child in some way, still seeking comfort, still needing reassurance. And perhaps you are. Perhaps we all remain, in some small way, the children we once were, no matter how many years pass, no matter how old we grow. That child is still inside you, still present, still part of who you are. And at 2 a.m., you can feel that child's presence, can remember what it was like to be young and vulnerable and new to the world. There is a tenderness in that memory, a sweetness, even when the childhood was not perfect, even when there were difficulties and pain. You survived it. You grew from it. And that child you were deserves compassion, deserves to be remembered gently. You think about the games you played, the friends you had, the dreams you dreamed when the whole world was ahead of you and anything seemed possible. You remember the first time you felt a particular emotion, the first time you experienced loss or disappointment or betrayal, and how enormous those feelings seemed then, how they filled your entire world because your world was still so small. You remember the taste of your favorite childhood food, the smell of your grandmother's house, the feel of grass under your bare feet in summer. These sensory memories are sometimes stronger than the visual ones, more immediate, more powerful. They transport you back in ways that photographs never can, and at 2 a.m., you allow yourself to be transported, to visit that younger version of yourself, to remember what it felt like to be at the beginning rather than nearing the end. School returns to you in the deep night, not as it actually was, but as it felt. You remember desks and classrooms and teachers whose names you have forgotten but whose faces remain. You remember the social landscape, the complicated world of friendships and alliances and rejections that felt so important then and feels so distant now. You remember feeling small, feeling unseen, feeling like you did not quite fit in the way others seemed to. Or perhaps you did fit in. Perhaps you were popular, well-liked, confident. But even then, there was something beneath the surface, some uncertainty, some sense that you were performing a role rather than simply being yourself. You remember specific moments, a test you failed, a time you were laughed at, a friend who turned away, a crush who did not notice you. These moments seemed devastating then, like the end of the world, and now they are simply memories, small hurts that have long since healed but have left their marks nonetheless. At 2 a.m, you can look back on those school years with a tenderness, with an understanding that you were doing your best, that everyone was, that childhood and adolescence are hard for everyone, even those who seem to glide through effortlessly. You were learning who you were, trying on identities, making mistakes, finding your way. And you survived it. You made it through. And here you are now, decades later, lying in bed at 2 a.m., and those school days feel both impossibly distant and strangely close. The feelings remain even when the details have faded. The sense of trying to belong, of wanting to be accepted, of hoping to be seen. These are universal experiences, and they connect you to every other person who has ever been young and uncertain and searching. You remember the smell of school hallways, the sound of bells ringing, the taste of cafeteria food, the feeling of carrying heavy books, the exhaustion of trying to navigate not just academics but the complex social world that felt more important than anything you were learning in class. You remember teachers who saw you and teachers who did not, moments of kindness and moments of cruelty, times when you felt smart and times when you felt stupid. All of it is still there, stored somewhere inside you, surfacing now in the quiet of 2 a.m. You think about the person you were trying to become back then, the adult you imagined you would be, and you wonder what that younger you would think of who you actually became. Would they be proud? Disappointed? Surprised? At 2 a.m, you can look at that question with curiosity rather than judgment, with interest rather than anxiety. You remember the energy you once had, the body that moved without thought, without pain, without limitation. You remember sleeping deeply, easily, the way young people sleep, falling unconscious within minutes and waking refreshed 8 hours later without ever stirring. You remember a body that could run, that could dance, that could work all day and still have energy for the evening. You remember not thinking about your body at all, taking it for granted, assuming it would always be this way, that energy and strength and vitality were permanent states rather than temporary gifts. You remember staying up all night, not because you could not sleep, but because you chose not to, because there were parties or conversations or adventures that seemed more important than rest. And in the morning you were tired but functional, able to push through, able to recover quickly. That body feels like a stranger now, like someone else's body, like a memory of a person you used to be. You do not resent its loss. You do not spend these 2 a.m. hours wishing you could have it back. You simply remember it with a quiet nostalgia, with an appreciation for what it was, for the years when your body was not something you had to negotiate with, not something that demanded attention and care and constant adjustment. It simply was, and you lived in it without awareness, without gratitude, because you did not know it was something to be grateful for. Now you know. Now, at 2 a.m, lying in a body that aches and tires and struggles, you know. And there is a bittersweet quality to that knowledge, an understanding of what has been lost but also an appreciation for what remains. Your body is still here. It still carries you. It still allows you to experience this world, this life, this moment. And for that, even with all its limitations, you are grateful. You think about all the things your body has done over the years, all the places it has taken you, all the sensations it has allowed you to feel. You remember the strength you once had, the stamina, the flexibility, the ease of movement that required no thought. And you honor that younger body, that earlier version of yourself, while also honoring this current body, this aging form that is doing its very best to keep you here, to keep you present, to keep you alive. You think about the physical activities you can no longer do, the sports you played, the dancing you loved, the long hikes you took without a second thought. And while there is loss in that remembering, there is also gratitude for having had those experiences, for having lived in a body that was strong and capable, for having known what it felt like to move through the world with ease and confidence. There were choices that shaped everything, moments when your life could have gone one way or another, and the direction you chose determined the decades that followed. At 2 a.m. these pivot points return to you. You remember the job you took or the job you did not take. You remember the city you moved to or the city you left behind. You remember the person you said yes to or the person you said no to. Some of these choices felt momentous at the time, weighted with significance, agonized over for days or weeks. Others felt small, almost random, decisions made without full awareness of their consequences. And yet, looking back now, you can see how each choice led to the next, how the life you lived unfolded from a series of moments when you turned left instead of right, when you spoke instead of staying silent, when you stayed instead of leaving. You do not know what your life would have been like if you had chosen differently. You cannot know. That other life exists only as possibility, as imagination, as a road not taken. And at 2 in the morning you do not torture yourself with what if. You simply observe that your life was shaped by choices, some wise and some foolish, some made with care and some made on impulse, and all of them led you here to this moment, to this bed, to this night. There is a mature acceptance in that, a recognition that you cannot change the past, that regret serves no purpose, that the life you lived is the only life you have, and it is, in its own imperfect way, enough. The roads not taken will remain forever unknown. But the road you walked, with all its twists and turns and unexpected detours, brought you here. And here is where you are meant to be. You think about the big decisions, the career path you chose, the education you pursued or did not pursue, the risks you took or avoided. You think about the small decisions too, the conversation you had that led to a friendship, the place you happened to be when you met someone important, the random choice that turned out to be significant. Life is made of these moments, these choices, these tiny pivots that add up to a whole existence. And at 2 a.m., you can look at them all with curiosity rather than judgment, with interest rather than regret. You think about the advice you were given, the voices that influenced you, the people who pushed you in one direction or another. You think about the times you listened and the times you did not, and how both kinds of moments shaped who you became. You think about chance and fate and free will, and how your life has been some combination of all three, a dance between what you chose and what was chosen for you, between what you controlled and what controlled you. Love lingers at night in ways it does not during the day. At 2 a.m., you think about the people you have loved, the romantic love that shaped years of your life, the partnerships and relationships and connections that defined who you were and who you became. You remember falling in love, that early intoxication, that feeling of being seen and chosen and desired. You remember the way your heart would race when you saw them, the way time seemed to stop when you were together, the way the world felt brighter and more alive because they were in it. And you remember the deepening of that love, the way it changed from passion to partnership, from excitement to something steadier, something that sustained you through ordinary days and difficult years. You remember lying next to someone night after night, year after year, the intimacy of shared sleep, of knowing another person's breathing, of reaching across in the dark and finding them there. You remember the silent understanding that comes from years together, the way you could communicate without words, the way you knew what they needed before they asked. And if that person is gone now, if they have died or if the relationship ended, you remember them still at 2 in the morning, with a tenderness that has outlasted whatever pain there was. Love does not end just because a relationship ends. It transforms, it softens, it becomes memory, but it remains. At 2 a.m., you can hold that love gently, can honor what it was, can feel grateful for it without needing it to be anything other than what it was. The person you loved, whether they are beside you now or far away or gone forever, shaped you. The love you shared, imperfect as it may have been, mattered, still matters. And in the quiet of this deep night, you can feel that love is something precious, something that was yours, something that no passage of time can take away. You remember the first kiss, the first time you said I love you, the first time you truly felt seen by another person. You remember the way love made you brave and vulnerable at the same time, the way it opened you up and sometimes broke you open, the way it changed you in fundamental ways that you are still discovering. You remember love's complications too, the jealousy, the insecurity, the fear of loss that came with loving someone deeply. All of it is part of the story, part of the experience of having loved and been loved. You think about the different kinds of love you have experienced, the passionate and the comfortable, the easy and the difficult, the brief and the enduring. You think about how love has evolved over your lifetime, how what you needed from it changed, how what you were able to give changed. And you think about whether you loved well, whether you gave enough, whether you held on too tight or let go too easily, and you forgive yourself for all the ways you loved imperfectly, because perfect love does not exist except in stories, and real love, messy and complicated and human, is worth so much more. Marriage, or any long-term commitment, is not what you thought it would be when you were young. At 2 in the morning, you think about the reality of staying with someone for years, for decades, for a lifetime. You think about the moments when leaving would have been easier, when you were angry or hurt or disappointed or simply tired of the work that love requires. You think about the compromises you made, the parts of yourself you adjusted or set aside, the dreams you let go of or postponed or negotiated. You think about the conflicts that arose, the same arguments repeated over years, the patterns you fell into despite knowing better, the ways you hurt each other and repaired and hurt each other again. Marriage is not a fairy tale. It is work. It is choosing over and over to stay, to try, to forgive, to begin again. It is loving someone even when you do not like them very much, even when they disappoint you, even when they fail to see you or understand you or meet your needs. It is being loved in return, imperfectly, inadequately, but genuinely. At 2 a.m. you do not romanticize it. You see it clearly, honestly for what it was. The good and the difficult, the joy and the frustration, the intimacy and the distance. And you recognize that love as effort is still love, that commitment is a choice made daily, that staying is sometimes the bravest thing you can do. You think about your partner, whether they are lying beside you now or whether they are gone, and you feel a complicated gratitude for what you built together, for the life you shared, for the ways you shaped each other, for better and for worse. Marriage taught you things you could not have learned any other way. It humbled you. It strengthened you. It showed you who you were, both your best self and your worst. And you survived it, or you are surviving it still, and that is an accomplishment worth honoring. You think about the small daily negotiations, the who does what and when, the balance of power and responsibility, the ways you learn to coexist with another person's habits and quirks and needs. You think about the moments of true connection when you felt like partners, like a team, like two people working toward the same goals. And you think about the moments of isolation, when you felt like strangers living in the same house, when the distance between you seemed vast and unbridgeable. All of it is real. All of it is marriage. You think about the vows you made, the promises to love in sickness and health, for better or worse, and how those words seemed simple when you said them but turned out to be the hardest thing you ever committed to. You think about the sickness you weathered together, the worst times that tested you, the moments when staying was a choice you had to make consciously, deliberately, against the part of you that wanted to run. And you think about the better times, the health and joy and ease that made it all worthwhile, that reminded you why you chose this person, why you keep choosing them. Parenting thoughts arrive heavily at 2 a.m. If you have children, they are with you in this hour, whether they are sleeping down the hall or whether they are grown and living their own lives far away. The worry never fully leaves. It changes shape, but it remains. When they were small, you worried about their safety, their health, whether you were doing enough, whether you were doing it right. You worried about every fever, every fall, every moment when they were out of your sight. You worried that you were too strict or too lenient, too involved or too distant, that you were making mistakes that would damage them, that they would grow up and resent you or need therapy because of something you did or did not do. And as they grew, the worries grew with them. You worried about their choices, their friends, their futures. You worried about whether they would be happy, whether they would be safe, whether the world would be kind to them or cruel. And now, even though they are adults, even though they are capable and independent, you still worry. You think about them at 2 in the morning and wonder if they are okay, if they are happy, if they are struggling with something they have not told you about. You think about the moments you failed them, the times you lost your patience, the words you said in anger that you wish you could take back. You think about whether you told them you loved them enough, whether they know, truly know, how much they matter to you. And you think about the pride you feel, the quiet, overwhelming pride of watching them become themselves, separate from you, their own people with their own lives. Parenting is the hardest thing you have ever done. It is also the most important. At 2 a.m., you hold both truths, the doubt and the pride, the fear and the love, and you accept that you will never stop being a parent, will never stop caring, will never stop worrying, no matter how old you get or how old they get. They are yours forever in a way that transcends time and distance. And you are theirs for better or worse, carrying them in your heart through every hour, including this one. You remember holding them as babies, the weight of them in your arms, the smell of their skin, the trust they had that you would keep them safe. You remember their first words, first steps, first days of school. You remember the pride and the terror of watching them grow, of knowing that every day they were moving further from you, becoming more themselves and less yours. You remember the teenage years, the conflicts, the slammed doors, the feeling that you had lost them somehow, that the sweet child you knew had been replaced by a stranger. And you remember the reconciliation that came later, the adult relationship that developed, the way they became people you genuinely liked, not just loved. You think about the grandchildren if you have them and how that is a whole different kind of love, less complicated, more pure, without the weight of responsibility. At 2 a.m., parenting is both your greatest joy and your deepest source of worry, and you would not change that for anything. You think about the lessons you tried to teach them about kindness and honesty and perseverance, and you wonder which lessons took and which did not. You think about the example you set, whether they saw you at your best or your worst, whether they learned from your strengths or your weaknesses. You think about the family traditions you created, the holidays and birthdays and ordinary evenings, and you hope they remember those times with fondness, hope they will carry those traditions forward with their own children. The house is quieter now than it used to be. There was a time when it was full, when children ran through rooms and voices filled the air and there was always noise, always activity, always someone needing something. And now those children are gone. They have their own homes, their own lives, their own families perhaps. The rooms they once occupied are empty or repurposed. Their belongings are boxed away or discarded or taken with them. The house is clean and orderly in a way it never was when they were young. And it is quiet. So quiet. At 2 a.m. you feel that emptiness. Not as loss exactly, though there is loss in it, but as transition, as the natural progression of life, as the way things are meant to be. Children grow up. They leave. This is the goal, the whole point, to raise them to independence, to launch them into their own lives. And yet, the silence they leave behind is profound. You walk through the house during the day and remember what it was like when it was full. You remember the chaos and the mess and the exhaustion. You remember wanting quiet, wanting space, wanting just a few moments to yourself. And now you have all the quiet you could want, and it feels both like relief and like loneliness. At 2 a.m. you think about this stage of life, this empty nest, this shift in identity from active parent to something else, something you are still learning to be. You are proud of them for leaving. You are grateful that they are living their own lives. And you miss them. You miss the noise. You miss being needed in that immediate physical way. And all of these feelings coexist at 2 a.m. without contradiction, without needing to be resolved. This is simply where you are now, in this quiet house, in this transitional space, learning who you are when you are no longer primarily defined by caring for others. You think about reclaiming space, about turning their bedrooms into something else, and how that feels both liberating and sad. You think about the freedom you now have, the ability to travel or pursue hobbies or simply sit in silence without interruption, and how you sometimes do not know what to do with that freedom. You have spent so many years putting others first that putting yourself first feels strange, almost selfish. At 2 a.m., you are learning how to be just yourself again, how to exist without the constant demands of parenthood, how to fill the hours that were once filled with caring for others. You think about the phone calls and visits, the ways you stay connected now that they are gone, and how those connections feel both precious and insufficient. You want to know everything about their lives, but you also know you need to give them space, need to let them be adults, need to trust that you raised them well enough to navigate their own paths. Regrets surface at 2 a.m., but they feel different than they do in daylight. The words you never said rise up in the darkness. The apologies you never offered. The love you never expressed clearly enough. The phone calls you did not make, the visits you postponed, the letters you meant to write but never did. You think about the person you hurt and never made it right with, the friend you let slip away, the family member you had a falling out with and never reconciled. You think about missed chances, opportunities you were too afraid to take, risks you did not have the courage to embrace, dreams you let die because they seemed impractical or impossible. At 2 a.m., These regrets arrive without the sharp edge they carry during the day. Night softens them somehow. You can look at them with more compassion, with more context. You understand now that you were doing your best with what you knew at the time. You understand that everyone has regrets, that a life without regret is not a life fully lived, because regret means you tried, you cared, you were vulnerable enough to make mistakes. You cannot go back. You cannot change what was done or left undone. But you can hold these regrets gently, can acknowledge them without letting them consume you, can make peace with them in the quiet of this deep night. They are part of your story. They shaped you. And perhaps, in some small way, they taught you what mattered most. At 2 in the morning, regrets are not enemies. They are simply part of being human, part of having lived a long life, part of caring enough to wish you had done things differently. You carry them, but you do not let them crush you. You acknowledge them, but you do not let them define you. They are simply there, alongside everything else, part of the complex tapestry of a life fully lived. You think about specific moments, specific decisions, and you wonder what would have happened if you had chosen differently. But you also recognize that this wondering is futile, that the past cannot be changed, that all you have is now. You think about the people you wish you had been kinder to, the moments you wish you had been braver, the times you wish you had spoken your truth instead of keeping silent. And you forgive yourself, slowly, gently, for being human, for being imperfect, for not knowing then what you know now. You think about the regrets you have shared with others, the apologies you did make, even if they came late, and how that felt, how it released something inside you even when the other person could not or did not forgive you. And you think about the regrets you will carry to your grave, the ones that cannot be resolved, that will simply remain as part of your story, as reminders of your humanity, of your capacity for both hurt and healing. Forgiveness happens quietly at 2 a.m. Not the loud, dramatic forgiveness of confrontation or conversation, but the private, internal kind, the forgiveness that happens between you and yourself, you and the darkness. You forgive the people who hurt you, not because they deserve it or because they asked for it, but because you need to let it go. You are too tired to carry anger anymore. The betrayals and disappointments and injuries that once felt enormous have shrunk with time, have lost their power, have become simply things that happened, painful but past. You forgive your parents for the ways they failed you, understanding now, from your own experience of parenthood or simply from years of living, that they were flawed humans doing their best, carrying their own wounds, limited by their own histories. You forgive the partners who hurt you, the friends who betrayed you, the people who did not see you or value you or treat you with the kindness you deserved. And perhaps most importantly, at 2 a.m. you forgive yourself. For the mistakes you made, the people you hurt, the ways you fell short of who you wanted to be. You forgive yourself for being imperfect, for being human, for not knowing then what you know now. Forgiveness is not about declaring anyone innocent or guilty. It is about releasing the grip that old hurts have on your heart. It is about choosing peace over righteousness, about letting go because holding on is too exhausting. At 2 in the morning, forgiveness feels possible in ways it does not during the day. The darkness holds you as you release, as you let go, as you make room for something gentler, something that feels like peace. You whisper forgiveness into the dark, or you simply feel it, this loosening, this release, this decision to no longer carry what you have been carrying. You forgive the world for being harder than you thought it would be. You forgive life for not turning out the way you planned. You forgive yourself for not being perfect, for not being able to fix everything, for not being able to save everyone. And in that forgiveness, there is a lightness, a freedom, a sense that you can finally breathe fully. You think about the people you have forgiven over the years, and how that forgiveness changed you more than it changed them, how it freed you from the prison of resentment and anger. You think about the people you have not yet forgiven, and you sit with that, with the understanding that forgiveness is a process, that it cannot be forced, that it comes in its own time. And you think about whether you have been forgiven by those you hurt, and you hope that you have, hope that they too have found their way to peace, hope that the damage you caused does not define their lives the way it once defined yours. Loss is felt most strongly at night. The people who are gone return to you at 2 a.m., not as ghosts but as memories, as presence, as absence. You think about your spouse if they have died, about the empty space beside you in bed, the silence where their breathing used to be, the morning routine that is forever altered because they are not there to share it. You think about friends who have passed, people you grew up with, people you worked alongside, people who knew you when you were young and vital and full of plans. You think about parents and siblings, about the generation that came before you and has now mostly gone, leaving you as one of the elders, one of the oldest, when you still feel inside like you are too young for that role. Loss accumulates over the years. It layers, one grief upon another, until you are carrying a weight of absence that would be unbearable if you thought about it all at once. But at 2 a.m. you can hold it piece by piece. You can remember one person, feel the particular shape of their absence, honor the love that continues even though they are gone. Love does not end with death. It transforms, becomes something you carry internally, becomes memory and longing and gratitude all mixed together. You talk to them sometimes in your mind or out loud when you are alone. You tell them about your day, about the things they are missing, about how much you wish they were still here. And sometimes, in the deep quiet of 2 a.m., it almost feels like they can hear you, like the boundary between here and wherever they are has thinned, like love is a bridge that connects across that divide. You do not know if that is true, but it comforts you to believe it might be. At 2 in the morning, loss is not something you get over. It is something you learn to live with, something that becomes part of you, something that makes you who you are. You think about all the people who are no longer here and you feel the weight of that absence, but you also feel the gift of having known them, of having loved them, of having been changed by them. They are gone, but they are also still with you, in your memories, in your habits, in the way you see the world. You carry them forward, and that is its own kind of immortality. You think about the last conversations you had with them, the last time you saw them, and whether you knew then that it would be the last time. You think about the things you said and the things you did not say, and you hope that they knew how much they mattered to you, hope that they died knowing they were loved. You think about their last days or hours if you were there, and how hard it was to watch them leave, how helpless you felt, how you wanted to hold them here but also wanted them to be free from pain. And you think about the grief that followed, the waves of it that still come even years later, how it ambushes you at unexpected moments, how a smell or a song or a random memory can bring them back so vividly that for a moment you forget they are gone. Your health is on your mind at 2 a.m. in ways it never was when you were young. You think about the doctor appointments that have multiplied, the specialists you see, the tests and scans and blood work that have become routine. You think about the medications you take, the morning ritual of pills organized in a container, the careful management of conditions that must be monitored, controlled, lived with. You think about your body's betrayals, the ways it has failed or is failing, the diagnoses you have received, the prognosis you have been given. You think about mortality not in an abstract way, but as a reality that is closer now than it has ever been. You are aware, at 2 a.m., that you have fewer years ahead of you than behind you, that your time is not infinite, that the end, whenever it comes, is somewhere on the horizon rather than in some impossibly distant future. This awareness could be terrifying. Perhaps sometimes it is. But at 2 in the morning, it often feels more like acceptance. Your body has served you well for a long time. It is aging as bodies do. It requires more care, more attention, more negotiation. But it is still here. You are still here. And there is something almost peaceful in that, in recognizing that life is finite, that this body is temporary, that you are doing your best to care for it and also preparing, slowly, to let it go when the time comes. You do not fear death the way you once might have. It has become familiar, a companion that walks alongside you, patient and inevitable. At 2 a.m., you make peace with your aging body, with your mortality, with the knowledge that life is precious precisely because it does not last forever. You think about the scares you have had, the close calls, the moments when you thought the end might be near. You think about friends who died too young, who did not get the years you have been given. And you feel gratitude for still being here, still being alive, still having time, even if that time is limited. You think about what you want to do with the time you have left, the things that matter, the people you want to see, the experiences you still want to have. And you think about your own death, how you hope it will come, what you hope it will feel like, whether you will be ready when it arrives. You think about what comes after, if anything, and you realize that you do not know and cannot know, and that the not knowing is okay, is perhaps even a gift because it allows you to focus on now, on being here, on living fully in whatever time remains. You have lived through history. At 2 in the morning, you think about the decades you have witnessed, the changes you have seen, the world as it was and the world as it is. You remember wars, some of them fought far away and some of them closer to home. You remember movements for justice and equality, the slow, difficult progress toward a better world, the setbacks and the victories, the ways people fought for change and sometimes won and sometimes lost. You remember leaders who inspired you and leaders who disappointed you, decisions made by governments and societies that shaped the world your children and grandchildren inherited. You remember the technology that has transformed daily life, the shift from rotary phones to smartphones, from letters to emails to texts, from a world where information was scarce to a world where it is overwhelming. You remember when there was no internet, when television had only a few channels, when music came on records or tapes, when photographs were printed on paper and stored in albums. These memories make you a witness to history, someone who has lived through changes that younger people cannot fully comprehend because they did not experience the before, only the after. At 2 a.m., you do not offer strong opinions about whether these changes are good or bad. You simply observe that the world has changed, that you have changed with it as much as you could, that you sometimes feel out of place in this new world but that you are still here, still present, still doing your best to understand it. You are a link between past and present, a carrier of memory, someone who can say I remember when and mean something that happened 50 or 60 or 70 years ago. That is a gift even when it does not feel like one. You think about the historical moments you witnessed, where you were when Kennedy was shot or when the towers fell or when the wall came down. You think about how the world has become smaller and larger at the same time, more connected and more divided. You think about progress and regression, about how some things improve while others deteriorate. And you hold all of it, the complexity of history, the impossibility of simple narratives, the understanding that every era has its challenges and its gifts. You think about the stories you have told your children and grandchildren about what the world used to be like, and how they look at you with disbelief or incomprehension, unable to imagine a world without the conveniences and technologies they take for granted. You think about how you are a living connection to a past that is quickly disappearing, how when your generation is gone, certain memories and experiences will be lost forever. And you feel the weight of that, the responsibility of being a witness, of remembering, of passing on what you can before it is too late. At 2 a.m. what truly matters becomes clear. All the things that seemed important during your life, the career and the achievements and the status and the possessions, they fade into background. What remains, what feels true at this deep hour, is relationships. The people you loved and who loved you. The connections you made, the ways you showed up for others and the ways they showed up for you. Time matters. Not time is measured by clocks and calendars, but time is experienced as lived, as felt. The moments that were fully present, fully alive, fully engaged. The afternoon you spent with your child, the conversation you had with your friend, the quiet evening with your partner. These are what matter. Presence matters. Being here, being awake, being aware, being kind. Noticing the world, the beauty and the pain, the joy and the sorrow, all of it. At 2 a.m, the noise of the world has fallen away, and what remains is truth, simple and clear. You spent so much of your life worrying about things that did not matter, chasing things that could not satisfy, measuring yourself against standards that were meaningless. And now, in the deep night, you understand what you might have understood all along if you had been paying attention. Love matters. Kindness matters. Presence matters. Everything else is just noise, just distraction, just the world trying to convince you that you need more than you do. But you do not need more. You never did. You needed connection. You needed love. You needed to be seen and to see others. And when you had that, you had everything. At 2 a.m, this truth is undeniable. You see your life clearly, see what mattered and what did not, and you wish you could tell your younger self this, could save them years of chasing the wrong things. But you also know that the journey was necessary, that you had to learn these lessons in your own time, that wisdom cannot be handed down but must be earned. You think about the moments you got it right, the times when you were fully present, when you chose love over fear, when you showed up for someone who needed you. And you feel proud of those moments, grateful for them, honored to have had them. And you think about the moments you got it wrong, when you were too busy or too distracted or too caught up in your own concerns to see what really mattered. And you forgive yourself for those moments too, understanding that you were doing your best, that no one gets it right all the time, that being human means making mistakes and learning from them. Control loosens in the dark. During the day you maintain the illusion that you are in charge, that you can manage your life, that you can plan and organize and control outcomes. But at 2 a.m. that illusion falls away. You realize, lying here in the darkness, that you have never been in control. Not really. Life happens to you as much as you happen to it. Events unfold that you did not choose and cannot change. People make decisions that affect you without asking your permission. Your body ages and fails in ways you cannot stop. The world moves forward, indifferent to your preferences, your plans, your desires. And there is something almost liberating in that recognition. You do not have to be in control. You cannot be in control. All you can do is respond, adapt, accept. At 2 in the morning you practice surrender. Not defeat, but surrender. Not giving up, but letting go. You release the need to manage everything, to fix everything, to understand everything. You accept that some things are beyond your reach, beyond your comprehension, beyond your ability to change. And in that acceptance there is peace. You do not have to carry the weight of the world. You do not have to solve every problem. You can simply be here, in this moment, in this bed, breathing and alive, and that is enough. Control is an illusion. Acceptance is reality. And at 2 a.m. you choose reality. You choose to stop fighting, to stop resisting, to stop demanding that life be other than it is. You choose peace. You think about all the years you spent trying to control things that could not be controlled, the energy you wasted, the anxiety you created for yourself. And you feel compassion for that younger you, understanding that they were doing their best, that the need for control comes from fear, from a desire to be safe, to protect yourself and the people you love. But you also understand now that real safety does not come from control. It comes from acceptance, from flexibility, from the willingness to adapt to whatever comes. You think about the serenity prayer, about having the serenity to accept what cannot be changed, the courage to change what can be changed, and the wisdom to know the difference. And at 2 a.m., you feel that wisdom settling into you, guiding you, helping you discern what is yours to carry and what is not. The night itself has become a companion. You no longer fear it the way you might have when you were young. Darkness is not threatening. It is gentle, enveloping, safe. The night wraps around you like a blanket, offering privacy and solitude and the freedom to be fully yourself without performance or pretense. At 2 in the morning, the night listens. It does not speak, but it hears. You can tell it anything, confess anything, feel anything, and it simply holds you without judgment, without demand. The night has been with you through every stage of your life, present in every era, witnessing every version of you. And now, in these golden years, it feels less like absence of light and more like presence of peace. The darkness is not empty. It is full. Full of possibility, full of memory, full of the quiet that allows you to hear your own thoughts, your own breath, your own heartbeat. At 2 a.m. you are grateful for the night, for this hour, for the gift of wakefulness that allows you to be here, present, aware. The night does not rush you. It does not tell you that you should be sleeping. It simply is, and you are within it, and together you exist in this moment that belongs to no one else, that is entirely yours. The night is your companion, your confidant, your shelter. And it will stay with you until morning comes, patient and steady and true. You think about all the nights of your life, all the hours of darkness you have experienced, and you feel a kinship with the night, a friendship that has deepened over the years. The night has held you through your best moments and your worst, through celebrations and crises, through joy and grief. It has been constant, reliable, always there when the day ended, always ready to receive you, to hold you, to keep your secrets. And now, at 2 a.m., you thank the night for its faithfulness, for its constancy, for the way it has always been there, a silent partner in your life, a witness to everything you have been and done and felt. You feel yourself preparing for sleep again, though you do not force it. Your breathing has slowed without you noticing, the rhythm becoming deeper, more regular, more peaceful. Your muscles are releasing, one by one, letting go of tension they have held for hours. Your thoughts are beginning to drift, becoming less linear, less urgent, softer around the edges. You are not trying to sleep. You are simply allowing it, inviting it, making space for it if it chooses to return. You adjust your position one more time, finding that place of comfort, that arrangement of limbs and pillows and blankets that feels right. Your eyes close, or perhaps they were already closed, you are not sure. The darkness behind your eyelids is the same as the darkness in the room, all of it blending together, all of it holding you. You breathe in slowly, deeply, feeling the cool air enter your lungs, and you breathe out, letting go of whatever remains. The house is still quiet. The world is still asleep. And you are here, in this bed, in this moment, hovering in that space between wake and sleep, that liminal place where anything feels possible, where time seems to stop, where you are simply floating, suspended, held. You do not need to do anything. You do not need to be anyone. You can simply rest here, in this gentle darkness, and trust that whatever comes next will be exactly what you need. Your body knows how to sleep. It has done this thousands of times. And now, slowly, gently, it is beginning to remember, beginning to let go, beginning to drift. You feel the weight of your body sinking into the mattress, feel gravity pulling you down, feel the softness of the pillow cradling your head. You feel your heartbeat slowing, your breathing deepening, your mind quieting. And you welcome it all, this gentle slide towards sleep, this release, this surrender. Sleep comes, let it come. Do not chase it. Do not demand it. Simply allow it. Your body knows what to do. It has done this thousands of times before. It knows how to let go, how to sink, how to surrender, to rest. You do not need to force anything. You do not need to try. You simply need to be here, breathing, present, open. Sleep will find you when it is ready, or it will not, and either way you are okay. There is no failure in wakefulness. There is no shame in lying here, eyes open, mind active. You are resting even if you are not sleeping. You are giving your body the gift of horizontal time, of stillness, of quiet. That is enough. That has always been enough. Trust your body. Trust the night. Trust the process. Sleep is not something you achieve. It is something that happens to you, something that arrives when conditions are right, something that cannot be summoned but only welcomed. And so you welcome it now, without expectation, without pressure. You open yourself to the possibility of sleep, but you do not demand it. You simply rest here, in this moment, and you trust that your body will do what it needs to do. If sleep comes, you will accept it gratefully. If it does not, you will continue to rest, to breathe, to be. Either way you are held. Either way you are safe. The night surrounds you, protects you, and whether you sleep or wake, you are exactly where you need to be. You think about all the nights you have lain awake, all the hours you have spent in this space between sleep and wake, and how each of those hours has been its own kind of gift, its own kind of meditation, its own kind of prayer. You think about the thoughts that have come to you in these hours, the insights, the memories, the clarity that only seems to arrive at 2 a.m. And you feel grateful for this wakefulness, even as you remain open to sleep, even as you allow your body to drift toward rest. You are still awake, and that is okay. At 2 in the morning, nothing needs to be solved. Nothing needs to be fixed. You do not need to be anywhere other than here. You do not need to do anything other than breathe. You have lived a full life, a long life, a life rich with experience and memory and love and loss. You have done enough. You have been enough. And now, lying here in the darkness, you can simply be. The world will still be there in the morning. Your concerns will still be there. Your responsibilities will still be there. But right now, in this moment, you are released from all of it. You are free to simply exist, without purpose, without goal, without accomplishment. You are enough just as you are, awake or asleep, productive or resting, doing or being. The night holds you. The house holds you. Your bed holds you. And you can let yourself be held, can release the weight of needing to be more or do more or achieve more. You have already lived. That is the great accomplishment. You have been here, present in this world for all these decades. You have loved and been loved. You have made mistakes and learned from them. You have survived loss and disappointment and pain. You have experienced joy and connection and beauty. You have been fully, completely, imperfectly human. And that is enough. That has always been enough. At 2 in the morning, you can rest in that knowledge, can feel the truth of it settle into your bones. You are enough. Your life is enough. This moment is enough. Even wakefulness is okay. Even this quiet contemplation is valuable. You do not need to change anything. You do not need to fix anything. You simply need to be, and you are being, and that is perfect exactly as it is. You think about tomorrow or today, since it is already past midnight, and you know that you will rise when you rise, that you will face whatever comes with the strength and wisdom you have accumulated over a lifetime. You know that this wakeful hour will not ruin you, will not break you, because you have survived so much worse, because you are resilient, because you are still here. And you feel proud of that, proud of yourself, proud of the life you have lived and the person you have become. The fires die down, the stories settle, and the world grows still. Let your thoughts drift away like embers on the wind. Good night.